over there. And what I want to do is I want to get foreground to transparent. I want to get this guy selected. So whatever is in the foreground, for example, is going to show up in here. So it's going to blend white to transparent, or for example, if I bring black in the foreground, black to transparent, which is what I want. So I'm going to go over here and make sure black's in the foreground. Notice now it goes from a nice gradient, black to transparent. And then all I'm going to do is hold the shift key down and drag up like so. There's my nice highlight button. So then after that's done, I could add more of a highlight sheen to this, but for right now we're just going to cover the basics. So basically there's my button, nice and shiny. So for example, say maybe I wanted to do a reflection on this button. Well, piece of cake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two, shift select, okay. I want to get these guys into a folder because it's a lot easier to manage you know, buttons and stuff when they're in their old folder. And I can do two things. I can go in here and create a folder, and that's going to basically make its own folder, and then I have to go up and physically select these guys and stick them in. Or what I can do, I'm just going to get rid of this folder here. What I can do is select these guys and then do Command G, which automatically, you know, grabs them, creates a folder, and sticks them inside. It's just one less step you have to do, and by physically, you know, selecting a whole bunch of you know, layers and scooching them around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this guy, and I'm going to call this button, darn it, I got my keyboard command there. I'm going to call it button A, for example, because my shortcut key is this little spotlight is set up for 1, so I can't name it 1 right now. Anyway, so this is button A. So now all we're going to do is we're going to actually duplicate this button A. So I'm going to duplicate the whole group, and that's this little flyout menu right over here in this little corner. If I click on it, you got a nice flyout menu. All this stuff, there's tons of stuff controlled, you know, convert to smart object, group properties, etc., etc. So first thing I want to do is duplicate the group. And it's going to say, hey, what do you want to name it? I'm going to name it button A copy for right now. Duplicate it. Okay, so that's all nicely set up. So what I can do is I can merge these two groups together, or I can just select everything and do a transform. I'm going to do a transform just because it keeps things a bit simple. You know, I want to aim for simplicity right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm actually going to select button A, because when you're doing a reflection, usually the reflection should be on the bottom. It should be underneath. So the reflection is going to be pulled out here. So what I'm going to do is, with this folder selected, I'm going to do Command T, for those of you with a newer keyboard. Okay, so that's going to give me this shape here. Now this shape is called a bounding box. The tool that we're using is the free transform tool, and the free transform tool has this bounding box. And you see when I mouse over any of these, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. It gives me different arrows, so I can actually scale it, I can scooch it around, I can modify it, I can rotate it, I can do really whatever I want to it. What I'm going to do is I want to make a reflection. Easiest way to do this visually is to go and you mouse over the top control point and just drag it down. Now what you're doing is you're just flipping it. You're just pulling this, and I mean it's totally up to you how far you want to take it. So I'm just going to actually make it half the size. I'm just going to leave it right there for right now, okay? And if you want, you can actually, even if you want to give some perspective, it's fine like this. If you want to give it some perspective, I can go in and I'm going to hold down, let's see, my shift, my command, and my option keys, and then I'm going to drag out. And that allows me to modify the right, let's see, the bottom, the top or the bottom control points simultaneously, so they go not parallel to each other, but they move in unison. So if I'm dragging one end out to the right, the other end is flying out to the left. So, and that will give the appearance of perspective. If you want to do that, it's your call. I'm going to do it. So now this is okay, this is fine. I'm going to go over here. I can either double click on this and it'll apply it, or I can go over here. Double clicking is good, just make sure you don't double click and move it at the same time, because it gets a little sketchy that way. So usually what I do is I just go up here to the check mark and I click on it. So there it goes. Okay, button A, we're set. Now, did you know that you can apply a gradient mask to a folder? Well, you can, and we're going to do it right now. I've got this folder selected. I'm going to go in here and click on a gradient or a mask, so I can apply a mask to a folder, and this is super cool. So I'm going to go here, I got this mask to the folder, I'm going to go to my gradient tool, and then I'm just going to go click on it and drag up. Dragged a little bit too far, let's try it again. I'm going to drag a little bit, pow, there you go. There's a nice reflection, and because all this stuff is still a vector, I can go back, and you see it's giving me a massive bounding box because it's grabbing the selection as well. Just so you know, I can go back and I can actually rescale this down. Scale it in, scale it in, scale it in, scooch it around, I can move it, etc., etc. So it's totally up to you what you want to do with this reflection, and that's how you make a reflection. It's a very simple reflection, and this is a very simple example. You can reflect just about anything. It's very easy to reflect objects that are looking to you head on. Try to reflect a car, for example, where you see 3 tires. It's rather tricky, and if you try it, you'll see exactly what I mean. And there's tricks to that, and we'll learn about that later on. Anyway, that would be it for now. Thanks for tuning in.